All right, if I get your attention, please, you guys, we can go ahead and get started again so we can get out of here sooner. I don't know about the rest of you, but I want to go home. So, anyway, Kenn. Well, anyway, first of all, my name's Frie. I'm the managing director for KW Commercial here, and I've actually been a resident of Lakeway for over 20 years now, so I've seen this market grow quite a bit. And one thing I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit tonight, just real briefly, about the commercial real estate market. I mean, Lakeway, if you've been here long, I mean, we were primarily a residential community for a long, long time. I mean, we're really kind of a baby or an infant in the commercial real estate market. I come from a city planner background, and kind of the way cities grow is you usually see rooftops first or houses first, and then, people commute for a long time, and then people go into town to buy stuff. And I know personally, I was glad when we started getting some retail out here, because every time I would do a home improvement project on a Saturday, it's like you got to run to Home Depot, and it was way down Sunset Valley. And I don't know about you guys do home improvements, but I never get it right the first time and get all the stuff right, so I end up half my day driving back and forth. But anyway, just the way cities grow, I mean, you usually see the houses first, and then and then you start to see the retail and offices, because people get tired of commuting. And it's also, it's not like somebody goes and builds a shopping center out in the middle of nowhere and says, gee, I hope we get some houses around here and some people with money to come shop at my store. It's the other way around. Once there's enough houses, enough people, then you'll start to see the stores. So anyway, as far as commercial real estate, really probably just mainly, and probably the past 5, 6, 7 years that we've really started to see more commercial development, and you're seeing a lot of it along 620 and a lot of it along 71. Anyway, I'm just going to run through, and I also come from an architecture background, so I like pictures better than words. So anyway, these graphs, I put them together, and then I had to really think about, because it wasn't, whenever something's going down, that's usually not good. When it's going up, that's usually good. But there's some things that happened in our commercial real estate market is much better than some of these graphs show. I mean, we've had a couple big, we're not the typical way of commercial develops, and we had a couple big projects. The Hill Country Galleria had a huge impact on this area, as well as now the hospital's having a huge impact. And they have a huge positive impact, but when you look at the way the statistics and the graphs show, it doesn't look as positive. We've got a little over. First, we'll look at, and what I did is looked at Lakeway and Bee Cave combined as one commercial market. There's my pointer, and we're sitting on, and this is Lakeway. First, we'll talk about First, I want to talk about office market. Then I want to talk a little bit about the retail market, and then we want to talk about the multifamily market, which is also considered commercial. And Kenn talked quite a bit about the rental market, and I want to talk a little bit about that, and then just some upcoming development projects going on in the Lakeway Bee Cave area to kind of summarize what's coming. And I like Kenn said, I like to look at the past and kind of look at the trends of what's happening, and then start to look at where we're at and where we're going. But anyway, as far as this, we're starting out with just occupancy and percentage leased in the office market. 94%, 80, 90% is pretty healthy. But, you had the Hill Country Galleria come on in the office market. And we all know in the Galleria, the whole second floor is office. And when you bring on that much office space at a time, it just takes some time to absorb all that. So that's what you see happening here. But now, if you're a landlord and you own office, this is showing the rental rates over time, $24 a square foot a year. We've stayed pretty stable in the rent rates and what people are charging for office space. It's just we had a lot of office space come on, and it's taken a while to absorb it. Just kind of ignore this. The blue one doesn't really, that's a whole different picture I don't even want to talk about. Well, just because it's a real minor. That's the big one. Now this is the absorption, and this, everything above the line will show positive absorption when people were leasing up more space, and this is kind of negative absorption. But things, and then this is the line shows kind of the leasing activity over time. We did a lot of leasing, then lower, and then up and down. But absorption, you got to look at, this is when the Galleria came into the in 2009, 2010, and then here's the hospital is being built here, so they're adding a lot of space in the market that's not been leased up yet, but will in the near future. So that's kind of where we're at, but this is where we're going, which is a little better, which is a little more a prettier picture, a more robust picture of the office market. Is here we are. I mean, this shows. This is when, like I said, the Galleria came on. Here's the hospital right there. These little of where they're adding space, and this is of the vacancy. This is the vacancy rate, which is how much of the office is, or how much of it's vacant. And we're adding, since we're adding space, the vacancy is going up now, and then it's going to start once the hospital opens. It's going to start coming down. I mean, you just heard Dr. Cry talk about, they're building a hospital. It's 275,000 square feet. Now they're starting this, and you've seen the steel now out there for the medical office building next to the hospital. So it'll take a little time to absorb all that. Now we kind of shift to retail or shopping areas mainly, and over time here again the Galleria is just a huge factor in the retail market when that came on, and the shops of the Galleria across the road from there. So our occupancy started to decline when as that space was getting filled up, and now that space is getting filled up, so we're starting to see positive trend in the occupancy and filling up of stores. Rental rates, I kind of was looking at this, and the Galleria I think was a little ambitious when they opened up and thought people would pay a lot more than they were really ready to pay to open up a business. So they had some very high rental rates, but the market kind of dictated, hey, you guys are charging too much, people are not renting, so you drop your rents to get people in. So you're starting to see the rental rates came down, but they're still at $20 a square foot. And in our retail, if you remember looking at the office, we have about 1.3 million square feet of office space in the Lakeway Big Cave area. We've got about 2.7 million square feet of retail space in the area. Again, here we are looking at kind of the absorption rates, and this is when the Galleria came in, and this is where the hospital is. And the other big thing that happened in both the office and the retail, if you guys followed the Hill Country Galleria, it changed ownership, and it went into bankruptcy and default and a lot of it had to do with the real estate market and the economy also. But then when the new owners took over, they were very aggressive about offering people some very good deals if they would move in and just fill up the stores and fill up the office spaces. And then again, so you see our forecast looking forward from here going forward, vacancy continuing to drop, which means retail stores are continuing to fill up in the area, and we've all seen that occurring. All right, now let's talk about, Kenn talked about the housing rental market and how tight that was, or how high the occupancy level is, and how low the supply is in rental housing. Well, the same thing is happening in the Lakeway and Bee Cave area. But when I talk about rental market, we're talking about multifamily, which is more higher density, townhouses, duplexes, apartment complexes, condominiums. And if you look over time, Lakeway, we have 0 apartment complexes. The city of Bee Cave has 3 apartment complexes. And that's typically the way the cities were, but times are changing. This hospital coming in is creating a huge demand for a lot of people that either don't need a permanent house, or they're more mobile, or they're just the regular staff employees that maybe can't afford the high prices in Lakeway and Bee Cave. But anyway, if you look at what's happened in the area, and this is just kind of a 5-mile radius of this area, here's a telling picture. Since 2004, we've only added a couple apartment complexes, and that's that's Hudson Miramont, Windsor at Bee Cave, and the Falcon Head. So we've added very few apartments, and what that's done over time, that's in a 5-mile radius. We've got 2,200 apartment. We've only got 2,200 apartment units. Well, 2,100 of them. Right now we're sitting at 97% occupied in rental market, and And I think a telling picture of that, I mean, living in Lakeway, we have the duplex area over there, and I mean, my neighborhood is on the back side of that, and so I drive through every day, and those duplexes. I mean, a sign will go out for lease in a day, one day, and I'll leave to work the next morning. It's gone. I mean, they lease that fast. I mean, and so it's and that's or I shouldn't say problem, but that trend is going to continue as the hospital comes in, and a lot of associated businesses with the hospital. So we haven't added any new apartment complexes. The occupancy rates are continuing to increase. Rents are even increased quite a bit now because it's supply and demand. You got low supply, you can charge more for them. Right now, like I said, we've only got, and this is within a 5-mile radius of Lakeway. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 apartment complexes, and a couple of those are really more in Austin, Hudson, Miramont, and Preserve. So, I mean, we don't have a whole lot of apartment complexes now. We've got a demand for them, and we did a study recently for an apartment, a proposed multifamily complex in this area, and if you looking at going forward, the growth of the city of Lakeway is going to continue to increase. You've got, here's the Lakeway Regional Medical Center, the construction employees that need a place to live while this hospital is being built, and the expansions that he talked about, coming up in the near future. And, the household size. And right now, the Lakeway area, is about 15 to 20% of people actually rent rather than own. So the last column, I guess, is the big one. I mean, it's showing a demand. I said we haven't built any apartment complexes in the last 3 or 4 years in this area, and it's showing, in this year alone, we need 600 more apartment units or multifamily, and those numbers are going to continue to increase every year over the next 5 years. And then if you look at, so now we got a demand. So what's coming up as far as proposed multifamily projects? I mean, these are the ones that I know of now, and they're not, even if all these get built, it's still not enough to meet what's going on with the demand in it. We've got the North Lakeway Village, they're proposing about 90, but those are mostly condominiums. The vistas at Lakeway along Ranch Road 620 are, mostly condominiums. You got Tuscan Village right over next door to here that has 300 apartment units. Looking at recently over where Falconhead Boulevard comes into 620. Recently there was an 80 acre tract of land that was bought by the billionaire Bass Brothers that own, I don't know if you guys are familiar, if you're going to Dallas Fort Worth, Bass Brothers own the majority of Fort Worth, or at least downtown Fort Worth. Anyway, they bought some land up in there, planning an apartment complex here. Out on 71, Vale Divide is where Falconhead West comes in. That big, this is actually where Serene Hills came through. That big Masonwood development, they're proposing 300 or 400 apartment units. And over in Lakeway Highlands, which is over right next to where they're building the new water park or amenity center we talked about earlier, they're looking at putting some apartments. But even if all this multifamily projects get built, it's still not meeting the demand. So just real briefly, I mean, because most of these projects, and this came from the city's website. This is, Lakeway, here's 620 and Loman's Crossing, there's the Hills. These are just development projects that are either in progress with the city right now, and we'll start kind of on the north side of 620. You've got that first little thumbtack is the Holiday Inn Express that's being built. I think you guys have seen now. They're just now starting construction of that out there, which is right next to the United Methodist Church that recently did that major expansion of their multi-use facility. Of course, this is North Lakeway Village right here up on 620, and they're proposing a whole mixture of single-family houses and multifamily. They've got a whole of over 50 acres of land for commercial development but they don't have any plans at this time. Cafe Del Rio that just opened up with Pregos is right here. If you guys have seen, now the Discovery Point where Misu's restaurant is, if you haven't been there lately, they're basically that same building. They're starting down on the hill right below it, about the same size building, 22,000 square feet, which is about the same size as that Cafe Del Rio, Del Lago or Del Rio, Del Lago. And then, of course, the Lakeway Regional Medical Center, this Tuscan Village, which we all see is under construction. A lot of houses are going in, and then out here, kind of to the west is Flint Rock Falls. This is the big. I mean, that keeps changing names. It was Serene Hills, or Kelowna something. And then of course the Highlands Development Project. And then lastly, this is City of Bee Cave. You've got 620 here, 71, and then Bee Cave going into Austin. Bee Cave from a commercial real estate activity. I mean, they've kind of slowed down, I should say, but they kind of got a lot of in a short period of time. So there's not a lot of commercial development projects that I know of, but I do agree with what Kenn was saying. I think most of the commercial growth that you're going to start seeing over the next 5 years in the Lakeway area, and I think that ties into maybe what the bond committee sees, but I think most of the growth you're going to see commercially is going to start going further out west on 71. And TxDOT's now improved that very dangerous road, and there's a lot of open land, and it's just typical way cities grow. They continue to go out. Land's less expensive when you go out, and you got improved highway. You got a lot of proposed subdivisions going on out west now. So I think most of the commercial growth that you're going to see is going to start going out 71 west. So with that, that's the conclusion. And like I said, I'll leave my business cards here. If anybody's interested in any of these slides of this presentation, just either give me a business card or let me know. Or I think Kenn was planning on sending it out. Where is he? Oh, there he is. All right, well, Kenn, I'll turn it over to you, and you can introduce. Yeah.